All right, Brad, we're moving swiftly on to week 16, mate. Time flies when you're having fun. Last week wasn't so much fun for me. My best bet did get up Thielen, but it was the ugliest 50-plus receiving yards. He got 51 in the end. Carolina were bad. I will say, to your credit, you didn't put down as your best bet, but I actually backed a couple of alts in the Vikings first half, so I do appreciate the guidance on that. You were absolutely spot on the money. Share it to the Twitter people as well, mate, as we're sending out here on Friday afternoon. You want to get the Twitter people involved as well? Good man.
Yes,
good man. Right. We Saturday football, Brad. That's the best part of this year, time of the year. We've also got college football as well. So it's a stacked card on Saturday, but 2 NFL games. We're going to bypass the Chiefs-Texans for now. We're going to talk, first of all, about the Steelers and the Ravens. Ravens, 6.5-point favorite, 44.5 is the total currently at matchbook.com. And Steelers did not look good offensively last week or the week before without George Pickens. He's not back this week. And you're backing them under 19.5 total points.
Yeah, we spoke about Pickens and the Steelers' offense without Pickens last week, and they went out and they were terrible. I think 163 yards, 10 first downs. I think they punted on the first 5 drives.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think 11 snaps in the second half where the Eagles just choked them. And the stat I gave you last week was without Pickens, 31st in offensive success rate, with Pickens 17th. And what they also do without Pickens is run the ball a lot more often, probably to reflect that their top receiver is Van Jefferson. They're running it nearly 60% of the time. So I think this is a terrible matchup then for them. So the Ravens, they've been a top 5 run defense all year. They get the big fella Michael Pierce back at defensive tackle, so you would assume they are a legitimate top 5 run D. And then since they've made some changes on the back end, obviously at the start of the year they were giving up explosive plays all year long, like dead last in the NFL in explosive play rate. But they benched their $50 million safety Marcus Williams. They've gone to more single high, less sort of cover 2. And since week 10, they are 7th in defensive success rate and actually 2nd in success rate against the pass. So I think we are going to get the Steelers. They're going to try and run the ball because they've got no Pickens, they've got no threats. I think they're going to find they have minimal success doing that. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to start trying to pass the ball. And I think they're going to have minimal success doing that because Russ only throws deep and he's got no one who can really get open deep. So yeah, Steelers under 19.5.
I was debating whether to look at Calvin Austin, the third there. He's the highest receiving line for the Pittsburgh wide receivers or running backs or tight ends. And it tells its own story. It's 36.5 currently. Potentially there could be one busted coverage potentially, but I just couldn't get there. I think in fairness, I think what was his snap rate last week? He was on the field 81% of offensive snaps for Pittsburgh. They didn't have that many because, of course, the Eagles, even towards the end of the game, had the ball for 10.5 minutes in that final drive. But he did tally up 65 receiving yards in total with 5 catches. But it is grim right now for the Steelers passing game without Pickens. Amazing what one player can do, but he can stretch the field. The rest of them just can't seem to get there. Brad, so sorry, Mike, go for it.
One thing I'd add is that I think the offense ran 45 snaps and the defense was on the field for 80 or 90 snaps, like a ludicrous amount. And then obviously short rest and now against another physical team. Like if forced to pick I'd go Ravens -6.5, but the Steelers do weird stuff, don't they, where they keep these games close through blocked punts and punch outs and stuff. So yeah, this is why we're stuck with the team total.
Safer play under 19.5 Steelers team total. All right. And look, if you are interested in the Ravens -6.5, it's not far off even money, 1.97 currently with our good friends at matchbook.com. Speaking of which, great to be associated with those guys this year. Myself and Brad have a storied history with Matchbook, of course, on their own podcast, but really good NFL bet builder, as we've mentioned before. But also, if you want to bet these as singles, you can just click on the bet builder and populate to one bet even, and it will populate the slip for you. If you want to get involved, they have a pretty decent sign-up offer. You can bet 50, get 50. Use the bonus code POD50, POD50, POD50 when signing up. And full terms and conditions can be found on the promotions tab at matchbook.com. All right, into Sunday's games, Brad. couple of player props I like in the Cardinals and Panthers. Panthers 5-point dog at home at 193. 46.5 is the total. It's one of the colder weather games this week. Kyler Murray was asked at his press conference, and he, in typical Kyler Murray fashion, just came across as a bit of a dope. And he didn't do the whole I don't care about the thing, but he's like, oh my God, that's so cold. Just loser. But anyway, 2-player prop in Cardinals I like. Brad, this guy, Trey McBride, it's definitely been put out on social media in the last week or two. How the hell this guy has not got a touchdown? And even you saw last week against the Patriots, they did one of those Mahomes, Kelsey kind of shovel passes. They are trying to script him up in a major way. He's getting a serious amount of targets, though, because Marvin Harrison Jr., they can't really seem to unlock him. And I think when a team, in this case with the Cardinals, with their offense coordinator Drew Petzing is actually calling plays specifically to get McBride in the end zone, then that's good enough for me. This is a short enough price. This might get a bit bigger as the weekend goes on. But look, he's had 40 receptions over the last 4 games. And couple that with the fact that the Panthers have given up a league high 10 touchdowns to the tight end position, would scream that potentially this is the week. It's a funny fact that he has got 89 catches for 938 yards in the season and 0 touchdowns. I looked it up. Keyshawn Johnson was the last guy to have this many receptions in 2001 with the Tampa Bay Bucks with 92. So hopefully McBride gets off the schneid. I think he does this week. This is a bit of a smash job in the same game. James Conner, 80-plus rush yards, again at 1.86. This Panthers rush D is woeful. They're so bad. They're far and away the worst rushing D in the league. They've given up over 375 more rushing yards to running backs, over 375 more than any other team in the league. And Connor, to me, when I saw this line at 80 plus at 186, I was like, no, that can't be right. There's something wrong here. I'd have had him at definitely into the next 100. This guy always is just underrated versus the top tier backs. I'm going to say he's a Saquon or whatever, but he's definitely just underneath that tier. And this is a real opportune time. If Rico Dowdle got 149 yards last week, I think James Conner should be able to get 80 plus rush yards. Any thoughts on this one, mate? The line about right? 5?
No idea, to be honest. No idea on this one, sorry. Not getting on it.
Fair enough, mate. All right, let's move on. Probably the game of the weekend, the Eagles Commanders, NFC East clash. Commanders getting 3.5, pretty key number at home, 196. 45.5 is the total. But are the Commanders still a bit overrated? And they're going, this is Cliff Kingsbury against Vic Fangio. And that's why I think that might be one of the reasons you like Washington team total under 20.5.
Yeah, we've got one of the best defensive coordinators in the game against a man who's famous for not making adjustments in a rematch. So it's not like the first time went that well for them. They scored 18 in that Thursday night game. Should have had 17 by adjusted points. So fairly minimal output. And we've been saying it. Well, I've been saying it all year long, and I've been wrong a lot of the time, that the Washington offense is massively overperforming its talent. Like the offensive line is middle of the pack. The receivers outside of Terry McLaurin are poor. Now, this week they're going to be down Zach Ertz. It looks like I think he's in concussion protocol. Looks unlikely to play last I checked. They're already down Noah Brown, who, that shouldn't be an issue that you're missing Noah Brown, but it is an issue because you're down to like Olamide Zaccheaus. And the first matchup, Kenyon Mitchell, Eagles corner, very good corner. He was on Terry McLaurin, 20 of 25 routes, and he held him to 0 targets, 0 receptions. So I don't know how they're going to move the ball. I'll tell you how. If they do move the ball, it's Jaden Daniels doing mad stuff, holding onto the ball and then creating after the play, running. I think his rush line is about 41 or so. But he had a sack problem in college, and it's starting to creep in now. Whether it's he's hit a rookie wall or whether it's the scheme and Cliff running out of ideas. But 8 sacks last week against the Saints, who don't have a good pass rush, and then you have a top 2. Brandon Thorne's got this Eagles D-line, second best in the entire league. So you could easily see the Eagles rack up 6-7 sacks here. And I have no idea how Washington moved the ball with any consistency. And the other thing, as we said, the Eagles defense basically got the second half off last week, 11 snaps against the Steelers, so they're going to be fresh. So yeah, I like it.
I played a bit of Eagles -3 during the week, and look, the market's going with me on that one. Doesn't always go that way, but I think even 3.5 -3.5 is a bit of a bet as well. So like if we're saying that Washington are getting 1.5 here, so what are we saying is on a neutral? Like that still doesn't really stack up to me. If we're saying it's 5 on a neutral, am I right there? Or am I going like?
Yeah,
Like I don't know,
maybe?
yeah.
I
just
well,
think
Go on.
Washington definitely overrated, man.
I think the Eagles are either 1 or 2 best team in the NFL. Like they just battered the Ravens 2 weeks ago. Then
Yeah.
everyone thinks the Ravens got the
Line
best
of
offense in
scrimmage,
the league.
D-line, O-line, they're outstanding. This O-line
Yeah.
could just boss Washington and everything.
Brandon Thorne rankings, best O-line in the league, second best defensive line in the league. And then they're better than Washington at the skill positions as well. They're better at the coordinator positions. Like I have no idea where this game is close, really.
Yeah, fully agree. Proper franchise with Howie Roseman running things there. They just draft the right players as well. All right, next one you want to look at is the Titans first half against the Colts. It's +3 at 184. It might be a bit of a better price. So I just took that from Matchbook.com currently, but the market wasn't exceptionally liquid on the main page. I might have a look at the bet builder section in a second. But I watched a bit of that game back, the Colts and Broncos last week, because I kind of wanted to see for the game last night where the angle was in terms of, opposite certain who was picking up who or whatever. But watching some of the Anthony Richardson things, he's not good, Brad. He's really poor. And I don't even think they're taking away the deep ball now as well. So he's a major liability to this team currently.
Yes, I mean, I don't know. He might be one long term because obviously he's ludicrously talented. But this is mainly about the quarterbacks. Let me pull up my little chart here from Kevin Cole, who I talk about a lot, where he's got his quarterback rankings adjusted for things like strength of schedule, adjusted for drops, adjusted for fumbles, adjusted for weather even. Now, second last in the NFL, he has Mr. Will Levis, who has obviously been benched. Like Levis is only better than Tyler Huntley. Is that this year? I don't know. Yeah, but he's dead last. He's basically dead last in the league. Middle of the pack is our friend Mason Rudolph, who has a positive EPA per play. And Rudolph is just above CJ Stroud. He's just above Drake May. He's just above Dak Prescott. And he is a fair bit above Anthony Richardson, who is exactly 0.00 adjusted EPA per play, whereas Rudolph is plus 0.09. So we've possibly got the better quarterback here. And we've definitely got a massive upgrade from Will Levis. Then you look at the defenses; they're both pretty much league average defenses. Titans are 15th in DVOA. Colts are 16th in DVOA. But yeah, you're getting 3 in the first half. And the other thing we've spoken a lot about this year is the Titans script, which again they're better than the Colts in first quarter EPA, first quarter success rate. So yeah, this should be close to pick 'em, I would have said.
We don't want the Titans first half going the way the one in Washington a couple of weeks ago, but I don't think it will.
I think, in hindsight, that was a bad spot. They just upset the Texans the week before, and I think they just came out and didn't give a damn.
Wasn't just trying to remind you that, by the way. It was just for the sake of saying that. I have plenty of losers as well, man.
No, it's a good point that I think someone said this on a podcast once, which is that betting the NFL is all about adjustments and understanding why something happened.
Yeah.
And for example, 49ers losing by 30 in Buffalo 2 weeks ago, like bad travel spot, Purdy had a hurt arm, snow, and you can kind of say, let's get rid of that game. And
100%.
With Tennessee, that game, I can possibly see why they just didn't show up, and it looked like they didn't show up because they were down 28-0 at halftime or something. So I'm not like, I don't put too much weight in that one.
Speaking of reflection, so we talked about the Lions-Bills game. Obviously, it was the game of the week last week, and it pretty much lived up to the hype, I think, in many ways. But the Lions, so I like their team total this week, right? I'll get into it in a second, but they've so many injuries, Brad, on the back end defensively. Like you just wonder, even with as good a coach as Dan Campbell has been, and the motivation, whatever else. Like, I mean, there's probably a reason are they still outright favorites? So did I see them? Did that move a bit? Did their price definitely drift during the week.
I'll
But
have a
what
look.
were your takeaways from that in general? Because I mean, like we said we put up a bet builder actually on the show that we should have just put into the Telegram group, because that actually did click.
I thought you did.
So,
I
no,
thought
I
you did.
I just got clever, man.
Yeah, we won it.
Yeah, I got clever. I put in Montgomery anytime TD, and obviously he had the injury in the second half. I put in Shakir because I had him back as well. But yeah, I just got too clever. But if anyone was listening during the show, it was literally that Josh Allen hero ball bet builder.
Josh Allen to go nuts.
Like, Josh Allen, or just go nuts. And it's a good bet builder in a high total game, because they've got their own problems defensively. It won't matter this week against the Patriots. But thoughts on the Lions, because they're an intriguing team.
So there's 7.2 on the exchanges currently. So 4 favorite now. Yeah, I just think they're in real trouble, because they've got 15 players on IR, something stupid. I just don't think they can stop anyone. But to your bet you're going to talk about, we spoke a little bit about the Bears last week and how they've just declined dramatically in the defense. I don't know if it's effort or losing Eberflus or whatever, but like last month they're bottom 5 in a lot of the key metrics.
Oh, they are totally. And look, let's take a look at the betting very quickly. So the total is 47.5. That's actually come down a bit. Now, I know it's going to be 0 degrees in Chicago, and obviously you've got wind chill with the lake as well on top of that, right? So that does make a bit of sense to me. The Lions are laying 6.5 here. So why I'd be worried with laying is just because if there is a Caleb Williams almost resurgence kind of game for what we know he potentially can do, this could be the one. But the Bears still have their own issues defensively as well. And like Montgomery's up, but that to me isn't necessarily a minus if they can keep Gibbs fit, because as much as I know Campbell loves Montgomery, Gibbs just has that ceiling that, he is an every down back. The more touches you give this guy, the better. I think he's rushing and receiving line is like 123.5 or something. That tells its own story. I think the Lions are able to script off and up there. The whole Jared Goff playing outdoors narrative, I think in terms of how he's playing this year, I think you could put some of that to bed. I'm not saying all of it, but I think this is going to be heavy Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think they reach 28 points even in the 0 degrees, and you can back it at 186. That Bears defense is poor. A lot of injuries there as well.
Yeah. You're not worried about Jared Goff and his little hands?
No, I'm not in this instance. No, I think he's obviously he'd be a hell of a lot more confident if this is in the dome, but you're not getting 27.5 at 186 in the dome. I think it's factored in accordingly. I think Ben Johnson will have his way. Like if you you talked about it last week. Like as much as you will say about Eberflus as a head coach, defensively this team since he's left have gone off a cliff. And they can't seem to. Like, I thought the Vikings at different points last week played within themselves. If they really wanted to ramp it up, they could have scored even more. So yeah, I think there's a bounce back here for the Lions. Whether they will, I think they'll still win the game, but I'm just really worried about that defense. That potentially there's just so many injuries on the back end that Keenan Allen could have a day, DJ Moore could have a day. So yeah, but I'm just going to half the difference with a total. You could potentially look at this as a full game total if you're confident the Bears have success. 47.5, 186. The win, from what I can see, on Friday afternoon isn't going to be a factor, so it's just more the cold. So all right, I'll take that one. Last one for me, Matt, in the later, probably the best of the later games on Sunday night in terms of the 9:05 or 9:25 slot. The Vikings at the Seahawks. Seahawks getting 3 at home, 188, 42.5 is the total. My old pal JSN Jackson Smith and Jigba, 60 plus receiving yards at 175. Short enough price, but you can back it up at Matchbook 70, 80 plus, 90 plus if you wanted to get a bit more greedy with the price. I think he's pretty much the de facto number one receiver now in Seattle. I think it's starting to reflect it, as we mentioned in previous weeks, in the lines as well. He's, even last week, against the Packers, and again, positive game strip for receiving when they're so far behind. He's the 12 targets, and what I quite interesting too was the first read percentage for Geno and Sam Howell in return afterwards was 50%. Was the first read look. So he's like Ryan Grubb is actually scripting up plays now to him that are more relevant. He's getting vertical, as we said before. And also the Vikings, as good as it can be, and especially against the run, you can definitely get them on the back end. They've given up the most receiving yards to wide receivers this season. And they struggle. They can struggle against slot receivers. That's where JSN will line up. So 60 plus receiving yards for Jackson Smith and Jigba at 175. Touch on one more, mate. The Rams Jets. You thought potentially an interesting game. Jets getting 3 at home at 195. What's any angle?
I'm very tempted by the Rams here. And partially, again, it's the market loves the Jets every week, don't they?
Every week.
Every week. And so again, we've spoken a fair bit about the Rams and how good that offense is when everyone is on the field. But this Jets defense, so we've also spoken about like a brain drain when you fire Salah and you basically lose the head coach and the DC, and then you promote the backup assistant DC, and it's a brain drain. And so since Salah was fired, which I think was week 8, no, it was earlier than that, it's week 5 or so, because it was after London, Jets are 31st in defensive EPA, which is not their reputation and not how they've been priced. And then last week, they gave up 28 adjusted points to Mac Jones, who had been scoring like 7-10, 7-3. And suddenly he's going up and down the field. And so the Jets should have lost that game by the adjusted scores. I can pull it up in a sec. So I don't know if the Jets lose that game to the Jaguars, are they only 3-point dogs at home here? Adjusted score was Jags 28, Jets 24 last week, and obviously that was basically flipped from the actual score. So I just think it's not really being factored in how bad this Jets defense is and has been for 2 months now. If Mac Jones is scoring 28 adjusted points, you're in real trouble. And Stafford with all his weapons is going to go nuts.
And in fairness to the Rams, that was a real grinded out 12-6 game against the 49ers in suboptimal conditions. But I was kind of impressed by just their bit of toughness. You could potentially have labeled them a bit soft at different points, especially defensively early in the season. I think they're after figuring out a few things. Yeah,
I think this has got to be statistically, I don't like a lot of the luck metrics say the Jets have been unlucky this season. They've lost a lot of one-score games and things like that. And then I guess it's the cold as well. Like obviously Rams dome team from LA playing in chilly weather on the East Coast. But I don't know. To me, you look at the teams and how they've been playing for the last 6 weeks or so, and the Rams are much superior. The Rams are a proper playoff team. Now, again, I can write off 12 points in a rainy San Francisco against a team that is designed to stop your scheme. They know exactly what you're trying to run. But Jets don't have a defensive coordinator. So
the Rams -3 currently, just under even money at 199. Go on, Brad. Can I get you there with -3 as a selection?
Yeah. Stick
you in, sir. Stick in. Rams -3. Yeah, I was. There was one other game I was looking at, potentially a total. One of these kind of almost like dead rubbers, the Jags and the Raiders. I thought it was a low enough total at 40.5. But then I realized again, like, are you going to get a back-to-back week of Mac Jones' success, throwing Brian Thomas and Brenton Strange open, and then you have Aidan O'Connell come back? No, I will say, to be fair to the Raiders' offense, when he does come back, it does elevate Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers. All their lines have gone up with him.
But he chucks it.
He does chuck it, but it can be very hit and miss. But it's just a number I just thought, and then I just really, am I going to back and over with Aidan O'Connell and Mac Jones? Because we're in grim times if we get to that situation.
Do you wanna? I'll give you a little stat that could support an over. So over the past month, Jacksonville's the 7th fastest offense. Last week they were the 3rd highest passing, as in pass rate over expectation. And then Peterson said after the game, he spoke about Mac Jones's ability to get into a no huddle type of rhythm. And then they were the 4th most no huddle last week. So you might get Mac Jones going running no huddle and running at tempo again. So
it's such a low number though, and obviously you've no weather, it's indoors. So yeah. Could get there, yeah. All right, let's do a recap and we'll get out of Dodge, man. First one Saturday night, Steelers offense won't go good. Brad's backing him under 19.5 total points, 183. I'm going to swerve Calvin Austin. I just can't get there because it could be 0 or it could be 60, realistically. Trey McBride, the Cardinals tight end, he's going to score a touchdown this week. He's going to get off the schneid in week 16, 2.15. I like James Conner, 80 plus rush yards, 186 in the same game. In the Washington and Eagles game, Washington team total under 20.5 up against that Vic Fangio defense. 195 is Brad's selection. Titans, Colts, Brad likes the Titans +3 in the first half. I like the Lions team total in this offense to keep going and keep producing points. Over 27.5 against the Bears at 186. And my old pal Jackson Smith-Njigba, 60 plus receiving yards at 175. Wouldn't turn anyone off going up the ladder a bit to 70 and potentially 80. Best bet, man.
Well, I will say that I seem to pick the loser of the. I say I'll give you 3 bets.
The rest of them seem to do okay.
Yeah, the other ones.
Sometimes
right, so,
you just have to pick the one you least like. So of your selections.
When I was talking, I was most convincing myself on the Eagles bet. So I'm just gonna trust the process. Just gonna go with the
Trust the process, man. You have to say it.
Yeah, Washington under 20.5, 1.9.
Okay, man. Okay, cool. I like James Conner, 80 plus rushing yards. I think it's a smash and grab job. And another thing too, they use him a lot more in the passing game. There's a lot of short stuff to do. Him, DeMarcado. I saw Greg Dortch is kind of a slot receiver as well. He's in there as well. So you could potentially get a bit of that. So I think if you look at his receiving line, it's 19.5. You pair with that, him 100 total yards, James Conner would not put anyone off it in any way at all against this Carolina defense. All right. Get our dodge, Brad. Merry Christmas to you, to all of our listeners. Very much appreciate it. Hope you have a great few days. We'll be back for week 17. Time to be confirmed with the holiday season and all that. Best luck with your bets. Bye for now.